Hi, everybody. Dave at GradLeaders. Again, welcome. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us today. This is going to be our first of what is hopefully many best practices webinars for those schools using both our GradLeaders Career Centers and Looker solutions, hopefully to help with your ad hoc reporting needs and managing your data. Our agenda today is going to be pretty simple. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So again, as questions come up, feel free to ask them. Again, just keep in mind we are recording the session, so anything that you don't want shared with the world probably isn't something you should ask in this webinar. But again, you've always got access to me and other folks here at GradLeaders for one-on-one support for specific questions as well. In any event, what we're going to cover today are some changes I've made in the Looker site configuration recently, specifically the school samples space. I want to cover about a half a dozen FAQ items. I know we've got schools in all different places in terms of their use of Looker. Some have just gotten started, some have not even had training yet, but a handful have really dove in and started using the tool, and questions that they've asked have led me to do a little more research, and we've uncovered some other tips and tricks that you might want to know, so we'll share those. I'll cover a handful of the bigger new features that came out in the Looker 5.0 version that we upgraded to on the first Saturday in November. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers here if any of you schools on the call want to share a report that you've done that you're proud of or you think might be useful to other schools. We'll ask for volunteers there, and you can have me navigate through that. And then finally, we'll just leave time at the end for questions and answers. So we've blocked an hour for this. I don't expect it to take that long unless you've all got a lot of questions. But I'm going to go ahead and dive into my content. Starting with the school sample space, and I'm going to be toggling back and forth between the PowerPoint deck, which I'll send you after this call, along with the recording, and then actually clicking around in Looker to show you what I'm talking about. If there's anyone on the call who wouldn't mind me logging in as you to simulate exactly what the schools are going to be seeing versus what you see with my account, feel free to speak up now, and I'll sign in as you. Failing that, I will sign in as my colleague here. I think Aaron Clark has an account that's near the top of the alphabet. I'm going to go ahead and log in as Aaron Clark. He has a permission set that's similar to what the schools would see. Okay, for those of you who've gotten involved in this, you know you've got your own space where you can store the reports or looks that you've created yourself, and I would have told you on your training you have access to this shared space as well, and you still do. The GradLeaders Career Center space is where I keep a lot of the standard widgets that show up in your admin metrics dashboard, but I've also carved out a school samples space now that's there. So when I create a report that I think is interesting, or maybe I'm helping a school with support on a particular report or what have you, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the school sample space. So you can navigate to the school sample space under the shared space. You can click in, take a look at a report that I've done. You can, more importantly, if you like it or if it's close to something that you want, just, you can just save a copy out to your own space. So just click Save a Look. And in this case, I'm Aaron Clark. I could just save it to my own space, and you can see I've already put it there. So it's another place for you to find resources that might help you with the reports that you're trying to run. I would also invite you as a school, if you have a report that, again, you've created and maybe you want to share it with other schools, I would say feel free to save a copy of your looks to this school sample space as well, if you're comfortable with that. I wanted to raise this final point here in the slide deck. There's no data security concerns. When you create a look, if I'm school A, I run that look and it's looking only at my school's data. But if I put my report sample in the sample space and share that with other schools, they're only going to use that format to view their own data. So there's no data security concerns about crossing over between schools. The next tip I want to share is around managing your space. Now, for the most part, you won't have to do this, but we do have schools that have 2 or more users in Looker. And so with that, you're going to certainly want to share reports with each other and give each other access to your space. So again, I'm going to go back in here as Aaron. If I'm Aaron and I'm working in my own space, the little gear up here at the top of my space lets me manage access to my space. And in this case, you can see, as Aaron, I gave all of the users of Looker access to his space, but I just did that for purposes of illustrating how you can manage your space. By default, all of the admins in Looker, like me, can come in and look at your space. By default, you can also come in and do everything in your space. Now, in this case, you can see for all users on Aaron's space, I gave them the right to just view the looks in that space. They can't manage it or edit any of the things in Aaron's space, but everybody can look at it. Now, I could make that go away by just hitting the X. If Aaron had a colleague, specifically a colleague that he wanted to share with, he can add that. So let me just pick another colleague here. I'll pick Megan, and he can give Megan the right to view his space or fully manage and edit the reports in his space. So you have that control as well. If you've got multiple Looker accounts and you want to share amongst yourselves there, you can do that. So I just wanted to make you aware that that is there. Another important aspect of managing your space, it's not so important now, but it's going to become important as you do more and more reports. If we were to go look at my space, David Hoy, I've got lists of looks that I've saved, and there is page navigation as this list gets longer. But I guess I just want to point out that you want to be thinking about your naming conventions for your looks right up front. And I don't think I have something I want to dictate to everybody, but if it were me doing this, I would come up with a naming convention that was maybe the first part of the name of my look would be the module, right? Maybe it's workshops dash attendance dash whatever, you know, so that you can at least organize them by module or some naming convention that's going to make sense for you and your office in terms of how to find the right report. The next tip that I wanted to cover is the ability for you to use dashboards. You know, all of the schools that are using this to this point have created a number of looks, but I just wanted to make you aware that you do have the ability to create dashboards as well. And what is a dashboard? It's really nothing more than a collection of looks. And to illustrate that, I'm going to go back over to the shared space, the GradLeaders Career Center. You can see I've got a handful of dashboards here, and these are going to look familiar to you. If I click into one of them, these are the dashboards that you can see in your admin metrics tab in the system. So that job board metrics widget that you see is nothing more than a Looker dashboard. So how do you create one of these? Well, let's go back to Aaron's space for a moment. And you've got a couple of things you can do. Number one is if you've got a look that you like and you want to start to build a dashboard with it, you know, you can always save it to a dashboard if you've got a dashboard created. But if you want to make a brand new dashboard, you can simply, as you're in view mode for your look, again, you can just come to the gear, choose Save to Dashboard, and if you don't have any dashboards, you've got a new dashboard button down here to the left where you can create it and just give it a name. Once you've created a dashboard, why might you do that? Again, I'm sort of projecting down the road a bit, but if you've built dozens of reports here and you've got a long list of things that you need to run on occasion, and maybe you're scheduling and delivering some of those reports via email to people, so you might end up with a lot of content here at some day, you know, in the months ahead. I hope you do. But maybe there are a handful of key metrics that you need to keep an eye on, and so what you can do is just put those in a dashboard and modify that from time to time. But it's a way to just sort of take a snapshot of what's important to you in your office and just have one place to go look for the key metrics. And once you've got a dashboard, you can edit it, you know, you can pick through and add extra looks to your dashboard. You can, you know, when you're in edit mode, you can resize everything, move things around. It's all drag and drop, pretty visual, pretty easy to deal with all of that. So again, I think this might be down the road a bit for you, but I just wanted to start you thinking about it. What are the key metrics that you want to measure for your office? Maybe put a dashboard together. Once you've got a dashboard, more or less the way you like it, we can help you embed that in the GradLeaders Career Center admin dashboard as well. It's really nothing more than a custom message widget that has some certain HTML formatting into it that can display this dashboard for you in admin for your whole staff to see. So again, I guess food for thought as we go forward. Okay, the next tip that I want to talk about is there's really nothing to show here in Looker. I just wanted to talk about the data refreshing. This is something that a couple of schools have asked about. Is the data real time? What gets updated on just a daily basis? And so this is actually a comprehensive list. If you're working with a report and you're changing data in the system at the same time, how soon will those changes be reflected in your Looker report? For almost everything, the answer is on a real-time basis. If you're having things not show up in Looker that you think should be showing up in Looker, it's because Looker uses something called a cache, much like browsers do. Looker's trying to be efficient. It's trying not to make you wait the maximum amount of time for every iteration of a report. So if you're putting a report together and click Run, you're going to get what's in the data system at that point in time. And let's say you add a column, you add a filter to your report, you click Run again. It's not going to go back to the server and grab all of the up-to-the-moment data. It's going to just give you what's in the cache if it's only 15 minutes old or so. So if you're interested in seeing the absolute most current data and you've been playing around with the same report for 15 or 30 minutes, instead of just hitting the Run button up here at the top, just pull down the gear and choose Clear Cache and refresh, and that'll get you the up-to-the-moment data. The only two views that are not real-time are the candidate scorecard summary and the employer activity. So I guess just to point out where you find those things, I mean, obviously in the Employer Explorer, you would see the employer activity. The candidate scorecard summary is very similar in concept on the candidate side, but you can see this is a real summary type of view that is like counting up the number of logins by a student or the number of workshops attended by a student or the number of job postings an employer's made. So doing that on a real-time basis would just be incredibly slow. So we're building these on a nightly basis. Everything else in Looker is on a real-time basis. Next thing I wanted to cover, I had sent around via email about a month ago, but I know it was October and everybody was swamped. So I just wanted to reiterate this important point again. If you're running a detailed report, and let's just go look at one here in Looker. Well, I'm gonna just quickly build a long report just so everybody's got this fresh in their minds. For now, I'm just gonna go run a job report in great detail here. I'll just pick the job title, the company name, and just leave it at that. So the row limit is something I think you're all familiar with, and by default, Looker tries to limit a report for on-screen viewing to 500 rows. Anytime you run a report that exceeds that, I think most of you have probably seen this yellow box by now, row limit reached. Now you can make this number bigger if you want to. It's only going to let you go as high as 5,000 because I think the logic is, why on earth would anybody want to read 5,000 rows on their screen? You're obviously just trying to download the data. So the important thing to remember, and it's in the spreadsheet or in the PowerPoint there as well, is when you hit download, make sure you click all results. And that way, if it is a 40,000 row spreadsheet, you'll get all 40,000 rows out instead of just what's in the table that you're viewing on screen. Okay, this one, I'm going to give credit to our friends at University of Maryland for this one. I think it was a brilliant idea. If you're trying to combine jobs and on-campus interviews and take a total look at, let's say, employment opportunities for a semester, right, for fall of 2017 or something like that. I think most of you know the inherent problem there is that the job posting date is a good measurement, but then for on-campus interviews, those posting dates, they could be months before, right? When the employer initially sets up that job, could be months before the semester even starts. So, pardon me, I've added a new dimension into the Job Master, and you can see it here. It's in the Job Master view, and in fact, it's on my screen over here to the left as well. It's called Academic Term Date, and that's maybe a bit of a mouthful that doesn't make a lot of sense, so I did put a little information bubble here as well. So for interviews, this is going to be the visit date or interview date, and for job postings, it is the posting date. So I don't think this is necessarily an important column to put in the output of your report. I think it's best used as a filter so that you can say, I want to see the academic term date on the jobs for, I don't know, August 15th of 2017 through December 31st of 17, whatever it might be, to match your academic term. That's going to let you pull out metrics on all of the postings and on a campus interview jobs combined for that time frame. So that is a fairly new field or dimension that's been added to the view. I've had a number of questions from folks asking, how do I find my custom fields and how do I get them added onto a report? So this screenshot will be there to sort of jog your memory, but I want to walk through one of these now. And I'm going to just, again, I'm not sure which school Aaron is set up as now, but I'm going to just run a quick report to show you how to use a custom field. And in fact, I really need a volunteer for one of you now, just so you can identify a custom field for me. Do you mind if I log in as one of you on the call? Please feel free to speak up. Okay, I'm going to pick names off the list. Calvin, would you mind if I use your account there for ASU?
Sure, go right ahead.
Thank you, appreciate it. I won't show anything secret. And there's Calvin, he's up near the top of the alphabet as well, so this will work well. Can you give me the name of one of the custom fields you have on your student profile?
Graduation date.
Okay, and is that an actual date or is it a pick list?
It's an actual date, so we can do something else.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. Okay. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to pick a couple of key fields off of the student record here. We won't use names or emails or anything like that. Oh, grad date is a standard field as well, but I built in. Can you think of another? If you can't, that's okay. I'll just go looking. So in any event, again, back to the PowerPoint for a minute. Sorry. So there are two key components to understand how to find your custom field. It's always in a table named details, right? If you're looking for a custom field on the jobs, it's job details or company details or candidate profile details. So in this case, we're going to use candidate profile details. They all are named in the same fashion. There's the custom field name, which you would typically use as a filter. And then there's the different value fields here. Is it a date field? Is it a numeric field? Or is it a text field? So you can pick, you know, the correct type of output value and get it out on the report. Anytime you're going to use a field like that as a filter, you can see what it does. It's just going to sit there and spin. And so you can see some of the ASU custom fields here. And we'll just pick accelerate your job search. I suspect that's probably a yes/no type question, Calvin. Does that seem right?
Yeah, or a better one might be like the additional concentration.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then so I've filtered on the custom field name, and then I'm going to take the field text value, and I'm just going to make that a column. And so if I execute that, you're going to see that's how you get the custom fields out on a report. And again, this is true if it's company details or workshop details or whatever it might be. Now, the only dilemma there is that it gives you sort of it gives you a column header that's not all that clear to your audience if you're doing something and sending this report to somebody else. So once this report spins out here, I will show you how to resolve that. Okay, so you can see the additional concentrations column is here, and you can see that whatever students these are, you know, have certain concentrations here. So what you would do if you're going to deliver this report, or even if you just want to export it, come into the visualization. This is where you do all of your graphing for those of you who haven't had much hands-on time yet with Looker. This is where you would do your bar graphs and whatnot. But for a detailed report like this, the only reason you would need to go into the visualization is to give the column a different name. So every one of these columns, first of all, you can see these are a mouthful here. It gives you not only the field name, but it gives you the view name over here to the left where you got the field. So the first thing I always recommend is turn off the full field name. That makes it a lot cleaner to begin with, but now you still have this field text value from the custom field details table. Just come over here and change it and call it concentration. And I'm a terrible typist, but you get the idea. So that's how to deal with custom fields. And again, you can add those to any of the reports that you're building, you know, for any of the data entities in the system. Now, I do want to take some naming suggestions, not necessarily on this call. If you have them, I'll certainly listen. But I would say as you work with this more, again, this naming convention here made sense to me, but I'm one person. So if custom field name doesn't make sense, you know, what should we call it? Should we call it field name? Should we call it field label? Should, you know, what makes sense? Is it question? You know, what should we call it? And the same with these field values. If any of you have suggestions for what would make this more usable, let me know, and we can put a new label on those pretty easily to make it more understandable for you. Okay, what's new in Looker 5.0 that came out? There was a number of big changes, but a lot of them were around things that impacted us here, like in the development environment, things were improved and so forth. But these are the ones that I felt would be most pertinent to you as users at schools. First of all, there was a median function added, which before was not really present and so hard to use. So there's a new median function, which I've built in. Now, at this point, I've only built it into the employment/job offers Explorer, so that when you go into the job offer master, you would see like median measures down here that you can use for different things. I couldn't really think of other places in the system where median would be useful, but again, as I've said on everybody's training, as you use this model, this data model that we're using over here on the left is highly fluid. We can change it very quickly. We can enhance it. So again, let me know if you're saying, gee, it would be great if we had another median measure on this particular data entity in the system. It's something that's pretty easy to change. Earlier we talked about dashboards. Dashboards have had a couple of good improvements that I'll show you. I'm going to go back to the shared space for now just to sort of illustrate the changes. Won't make any changes since these are actually production widgets on the dashboards. But the first one was around forcing a filter to be required. So you've all seen the standard widgets that I've put in the metrics tab in GradLeaders Career Center, and they all have filters, which is great. But oh, and I'm not going to be able to edit this one because of my permissions. Sorry, I'm going to go back to being me. So I have permission to edit these dashboards in the shared space. When you go in to edit a dashboard, you get a couple of things. You saw earlier where I could add a look to a dashboard, and that's all fine and well. Filters are editable here as too, and this is how I set them up initially. We haven't done much training on this for you, so if you get to the point where you want to build a dashboard and you want some help in constructing a dashboard, I would say just let us know and we'll give you some additional training. But adding the filters is not that hard, and you see that you can add multiple filters per dashboard. As you add filters, like here, the posting month, the posting date, it's affecting all of the looks. You can set it up so that certain filters only impact one of the tiles here as opposed to all of them. Another new feature was that you can actually require the user to put in a filter before the dashboard runs. I think you would only do that if you had dashboards that were taking a long time to execute on your many years worth of data. But if you do have that case, you can say, look, this isn't going to execute until you run a filter just by flipping that switch. The next new feature that came out in 5.0 is called dashboard tiles. I've heard it referred to as lookless dashboards. So right now, everything that's on any of the dashboards I've done is physically a look as well. You can add tiles that aren't looks. And really all it does is it lets you do an explore, build a report, and then put it on a dashboard without physically saving a look file. Now you may ask, well, why would I want to do that? And really this is done, I think, just for purposes of content management. Again, if you get to a place down the road 6 to 12 months from now where you've got 50 or 100 reports or looks built, if you've got a number that you just want to put on a dashboard without sort of cluttering up your content list, you can do that. So that was a feature that came out to try to help the heavy users of Looker. One you've already seen me use. There's a new browse. This browse submenu did not exist before. It was just a main browse window that you clicked on, and then it took you a couple of extra clicks to get where you wanted to go. So now they've opened up the browse menu. That's a feature that I think everybody's going to find useful. And then finally, there's a new type of timeline visualization that I'll just show you, just so you're aware of it. Again, I think it's a little hard for me to come up with use cases for this, but I built one. And I did this on advising or coaching fill rates, but just to sort of illustrate what this does is it allows you to, if I explore from here, you'll see, it allows you to specify sort of a start and an end date or two different numbers. In this case, it's filled appointments versus total appointments. And you can put a third item there for fill rate. So it really is just a numerical metrics report, but it's just another way to sort of display the information. And you can see, in addition to showing sort of the start and end, it also is going to give you a sliding scale of colors to choose from in terms of whether it's good or bad, or, you know, high density, low density, whatever type of thing it is you're trying to report on. It's another interesting new visualization tool that they've given us. I guess what we'll do then is circulate this. We've got, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like only 5 of the 17 schools that are using Looker have made it here today, and that's fine. I'll send the recording around and the PowerPoint deck. Obviously, you can follow up with us at any point in time as questions arise as you get into this. We really want all the schools to get great value out of this tool. So I might start to be a little bit of a bother with these emails and webinars, but I feel like this can be a game changer for those of you that have been in this, you know, career management, career services business a long time. You know, I've seen a lot of tools come and go, and this is one that I feel like is going to be a big help for you. So again, no questions?